फाइल युवा कन्सल्टेन्सी प्राइभेट लिमिटेड किर्तिपुरद्वारा सम्पादन गरिएको हो।
Hi there and welcome. It's Korean time. Today we're going to learn some very useful tips for speakers of English who want to learn Korean. As you know, every language has its own unique features, and we can understand the uniqueness of Korean better by comparing and contrasting it with English. In this lesson, we'll focus especially on how the two languages are different. So, are you ready to take a look at the contrastive features of Korean and English? Ready or not, let's go. Number 1. Language family. As you can see, Korean and English come from very different families. They're almost like Romeo and Juliet, except that there's going to be a happy ending. As you can see, English is close to German, Swedish, and Dutch from the Indo-European language family. These have more things in common. Korean, however, is closer to Turkish, Uzbek, and Kazakh in the Altaic language family. Korea is in Asia, but it's not in the same language family as Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, and so on. Are you surprised? Number 2. Pronunciation. Now it's time to talk about pronunciation. Have you ever thought about the sounds that aren't in English? Well, there are also sounds in Korean that aren't in other languages.
युवा कन्सल्टेन्सी प्राइभेट लिमिटेड नयाँ बजार किर्तिपुर काठमाडौँ फोन नम्बर 0113333008.
Number 1. The first sound that's only in Korean is a vowel, It's almost like the schwa sound in the, but it's a little bit different. Another difference between English and Korean sounds are the consonant sounds. Number 2. You know, in English, a word can start with either the letter P or B, and the sounds are different, as in pill and bill. The same is true for the sounds T and D, and K and G in English. However, in Korean, the same letter is used to represent the P and B sounds, and for the T and D sounds, and the K and G sounds. One letter for each sound pair. Not only that, but each of those 3 letters have 3 different forms. The regular neutral B, the double tense B, and the strong aspirated P. The same is true for the T and the G sounds in Korean. Number 3. Here's another interesting difference. Like I just said, English has different letters and sounds for the letters PB, TD, and KG. However, there's only one S. In contrast, Korean has 3 types of consonant sounds for P, T, and G, and in addition, it has 2 letters and sounds for S, the regular S and double S. I just love learning about Korean, don't you? Number 4. Like the other letters, English has 2 separate letters, R and L, as in rice and lice. But in Korean, they're combined into one. This one letter can sound different depending on where it is in the word. For example, If it's at the front of a word or the beginning of a consonant, it sounds like an R, as in dari. But if it's at the end of the word or the end of a syllable, it sounds like an L, as in dal. That's very interesting. Number 5. Another thing you need to know is that there are just a few possible ending sounds for words in Korean. So different letters can have the same sound. There are different groups of letters which have the same ending sounds. As you can see below, those 3 ending letter sounds are usually different. But here, they all have a T sound. English, bus, beach, bridge. Korean, 옷, not. Not all of the letters in Korean change sounds at the end of the word, just the ones you say at the end without any air coming out. Number 6. If you've ever learned English phonics, you know that there are consonant blends like TR, PR, ST, and so on at the beginning of some words, and also consonant blends like ND, MP, and ST at the end of some words as well. English, tree, print, camp. Korean doesn't do that. There can only be one consonant sound at the end of the word. If there are 2 letters there, only one gets pronounced. It's not always the first or the last letter, though. It depends on what consonants are together at the end of the word. This is something you're just going to have to memorize. Korean, 갑, 닭, 여덟. Are you following everything so far? If you know all this, you can be a Korean teacher. Number 7. Another cool thing that happens in Korean is when sounds blend together and change to make words easier to say. It's kind of like when you ask, "What's your name?" in English. You don't really say, "What's your name?" in English, do you? It sounds more like, "What's your name?" doesn't it? However, in English, we don't really blend sounds between consonants. We just say nickname and kingly. Well, in Korean, each word is distinct, but the sounds within words can change. Kind of like how Americans say water or pretty, so the T sounds like a D. But in Korean, this happens when there are 2 consonant sounds together. So, looking at the words below in Korean, it's 막내, not 막내, 정리, not 정리, and 국립, not 국립. They're a lot easier to say that way, don't you think? Number 8. There's another similar thing in Korean where the sound of any consonant letter that's beside the RL letter basically gets changed into an L. That's why if your name is Henry in English, it might get pronounced Helly in Korean. So the words below, it's Shilla, not Shinra, and Solal, not Solnal. Fun, huh? Well, That's enough about sounds. It's time to move on to grammar. Number 3. Grammar. 3.1. Word order. 1. Basic word order. The first major difference between sentences in Korean and English is the word order. It's important to understand how they are different. Korean order is usually subject, object, verb, and English is usually subject, verb, object. In other words, Korean verbs are always at the end. Let's look at some examples. English, I drink coffee. Subject, verb, object. Korean, 나는 커피를 마신다. Subject, object, verb. 2. Another thing that's really different is Korean sentences use markers at the ends of words to show what each word is doing in the sentence. People don't always say the markers when they're speaking, but the markers are definitely used in writing. You can see the subject marker in red below. However, English doesn't have anything like that. We just use word order instead. English, the train runs fast. Korean, the train fast runs. English, the man who I met yesterday. Korean, yesterday I met man. Number 3. We already said that word order in sentences is different between English and Korean, so let's get a bit more specific. In English, we can say, let's go to the store, with to coming first and the store coming after. However, in Korean, that order is switched. It's like saying the store to in English. English preposition language. I go to Seoul. Korean postposition language. I Seoul to go. Number 4. Another detail is with the verb. When there is more than one verb word. In English, we have helping verbs like can, will, and do, which come before the main verb. But in Korean, the helping part of the verb comes after the main verb and changes it a bit to make a connection. The main verb comes first. English, auxiliary plus verb, I must go to school. Korean, verb plus auxiliary, I to school go must. Number 5. This is kind of similar, but when we use not in English, it's before the main verb. Like, I'm not sleeping now, right? The not is between the helping verb be in I'm and the main verb sleeping, but anyway, it's still before the main verb. However, guess what happens in Korean? Yep, the not part of the verb comes after the main verb at the very end. English, negation plus verb. Don't eat. Korean, verb plus negation. eat, don't. Now that we talked about phonics and grammar, you're already almost a linguist. But there's one more important part we need to go over. 3.2 Grammar and Expressions. Number 1. Not only does Korean have markers that show which word the subject is, it also has markers for the object as well. As I mentioned before, Korean sentence order is usually subject, object, verb. But actually, it's possible to switch the subject and object word order, keeping the verb at the end. We need markers to know which word is which. That's important if you want to know whether A likes B or B likes A, isn't it? It can make a big difference. English. Jinsu reads a book. Korean. Jinsu, a book, reads. Number 2. Another aspect of this word order thing is that we do change the word order in English to make different kinds of sentences. But that's not how different sentences are made in Korean, because the verb always comes at the end. Instead, the changes which make sentences questions and so on fit on the verb at the end, but the verb stays right where it is. English, this is a pen. Statement. Is this a pen? Question. Korean, statement, question, suggestion, and order, the verb is always at the end. Different verb endings make different types of sentences, such as stating a fact or opinion, statement, asking things or asking for things, question, giving recommendations, suggestion, and telling other people what to do, order. Number 3. Another really cool feature of Korean is that adjectives can be verbs. Wait, what? You know, in English, we need to use the be verb or a verb like be along with an adjective to make a complete sentence. You seem like an amazing person. Not so in Korean. This is something that makes Korean sentences very simple and elegant. English, Eva is pretty. Korean, Eva pretty. Number 4. Korea has a high context society, meaning there are lots of commonly understood rules about how to act and talk with each other. An important value is showing respect to seniors and elders. That's why there are different words which people use when speaking about or speaking to people who are older or in positions of authority. Number 5. Finally, Korean follows the opposite order that English does when listing names, places, or dates. That's why Koreans' last names come first. What's more, if we talk about our place in the universe in Korean, we start with the biggest place, the cosmos, and then the next biggest, the Milky Way galaxy, and then getting smaller, our solar system, and finally the smallest, our planet Earth. In Korean, Republic of Korea, Ulsan, Junggu, Jongaro, 345, HRD Korea. So it's true with addresses too, like where you live or work, and also true for dates. Start with the year, then the month, date, and weekday. Well, I hope you've learned a lot about the Korean language by comparing it with English, and maybe some things about English too. Now you're ready to get started with the next part of this book and really begin using Korean.
यस टपिक कोरियन भाषा तथा स्किल टेस्टको अध्ययन र प्री एक्जामको लागि युवा कन्सल्टेन्सी प्राइभेट लिमिटेडलाई सम्झनुहोस्।